All right, everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this Monday to go through this training collaborative event. This is going to be a lot of fun. This is being hosted by the Junior League of Fort Worth, and we are so thankful that they decided to do this training collaborative event for us. So a little bit about the training collaborative. This started out of the Junior League of Orange County not being able to place a training team to do 8 or 9 trainings a year during COVID. And I looked out in the world and asked the other leagues, is anyone else having this problem? And everyone said they were having this problem. So they were having trouble finding speakers, having trouble finding new training topics that kept women engaged. And so I started thinking about it and realized that the way to do it was for us to all work together. And so I started the Training Collaborative of Junior Leagues as part of the Junior League of Orange County. And over the last 3 years, it's grown now to 86 junior leagues. So every league has to plan one training. It's virtual. Everyone within the collaborative is invited. And then you get the benefit of all the other trainings that all the other leagues are putting on. And so it gives you this amazing experience to open yourselves up to new trainers, new topics, things that you might not have even thought about. And it allows our leagues, especially our small leagues, to work smarter and not harder. So to that end, I am going to turn it over to Sierra Wells, who's going to lead this panel from the Junior League of Fort Worth. Sierra, the floor is yours.
Hi, it's so nice to be on here with everyone. I'm really excited about this panel. I am uh, Sierra. I am at the Junior League of Fort Worth. I am a committee member of the DEIB. A lot of us are on here. Shout out to you guys. So this panel is LGBTQ awareness. October 10th is National Coming Out Day. So I got a lot of heavy hitters that I know and adore and respect in the Fort Worth community to join me in a moderated conversation about this. I want to preface with this is not a panel about Democrats or Republicans or political. But I will say, as a Black woman and my panelists, uh, our lives are inherently political. And one of the things that I learned in one of my training collaboratives that I got to join last week with the president of the Junior League of Miami, she said, get used to the uncomfortable, have the uncomfortable conversations. And that is the kind of outlook that the DEIB committee has taken at the Junior League of Fort Worth. And this is what this panel is, having those hard conversations, listening, understanding, asking questions. So my intro's out. I have a lot of wonderful people on here that I would like to go through and introduce our panelist. I was gonna do it where I like said it, but have we gotten the panelist view on here? Does anyone have? Okay. Either way, I'll start. First we have Broderick Greer, who is joining us from Denver. Reverend Canon Broderick Greer joining us from Denver. Broderick is a Fort Worth native, and uh, honestly, he's a celebrity. And then we have Shanae Bond, who is Hey Mrs. Bond on Twitter. She is an activist online as well, and she's also an educator at Fort Worth ISD. And then we have Stacy Millette, and they are also an educator with Shanae Bond at Fort Worth ISD. And then we have the very gay mother, Sharon Herrera, who is at LGBTQ Saves here in Fort Worth. Um, I want to kick it off by saying, this is a good one. Let's start with an easy one. Can you guys just kind of go through and like tell us who you are, what you do, and why you decided to join this panel? can we start with Broderick? Broderick, well, I'll start with you, Broderick.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me this evening. It's good to be with you. I'm Broderick Greer. I'm an Episcopal priest. I grew up in Fort Worth on the East Side. I'm a graduate, 2008 graduate of Eastern Hills High School, a 2001 graduate of East Hanley Elementary School. And I'm a proud son of Fort Worth. My three grandparents are buried in Fort Worth, and I'm back a lot because my parents and my brother live there. And a lot of my work over the last 9 years, being ordained in the Episcopal Church, has been LGBTQ advocacy, Black LGBTQ advocacy, writing, leading conversations, listening to the lives and experiences of LGBT people.
Thank you, Broderick. Stacy, do you want to go next? Oh, Stacy, we can't hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. That just took me a second. I apologize. I'm Stacey Millette. I am a transplant to Fort Worth from Green Bay, Wisconsin. I started my first year teaching in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I did some advocacy work there, getting like policies passed so that our non-discrimination policies included both trans and queer students as well as staff. And the cool thing about moving to Fort Worth is everyone told me it would be, so scary and different. But Fort Worth already had those policies passed. I know thanks to some of the work of Shannon Herrera. And overall, like I do think it's important for queer people to be in spaces where it might feel uncomfortable when they can, because the queer youth are there.
Sharon, do you want to give us an intro?
Sure. Sharon Herrera, but I'm from West Texas, so that's Sharon Herrera. I've been in Fort Worth for 24 years, trying to make an impact on saving lives. I started an organization here in Fort Worth, in 2010. I work for Fort Worth ISD 24 years now, and I was part of the team along with Fairness Fort Worth, Tom Annable, David Henderson, and John Nelson, our attorney, that changed the policies in the district to add LGBTQ inclusion and protections for our staff and our youth.
And last and certainly not least, Shanae.
Hi, I'm Shanae Bond. I am an educator in Fort Worth ISD and an online activist and real life activist. I'd like to think I am working toward my work is rooted in literacy and queer students, but also like students from minoritized backgrounds just being seen in the literature that they're exposed to in the classroom. And I'm on this panel because Sierra is my sister.
That is true. Karen, I want to start with you. One of the questions that I have is, what do you think are some of the stresses that come with having an LGBTQ plus identity? And how do you think that intersects with other aspects of someone else's identity?
Who did you start with?
You.
Oh,
You.
me. Let's see. Well, I'll tell my story. In 2010, there was 9 suicides in our entire nation. And it triggered my suicide attempt memories. I attempted suicide at the age of 16. I am 60 years old, about to be 61. So back in the day, there was no beautiful people like Stacy and Shanae and Broderick around me. Okay. It was a little small town in Texas, Catholic Latina. Priest told me I was going to hell for being gay. So didn't know about guns and drugs. So my choice to take my life was Drano. Drano had the little skeleton sign on it with an X and deadly. So fortunately for me, I'm sitting here talking to you and doing what I do to save lives because of an aunt, one affirming adult. saved my life. She happened to be at the right time, right location when I was about to ingest. She snapped it out of my hand and told me 7 words. And those 7 words were, I know, mija, you don't like boys. So one affirming adult saved my life. We never talked about it again, but it still stands true today that it takes one affirming adult, Shania, Stacy, Broderick, Sierra, one affirming adult to save a life. And that is why I'm here, and that is why I do what I do. I was told when I started this nonprofit it wouldn't last 2 or 3 years, but next year we'll be celebrating our 15 years. So because of people that are donating to us, we're 100% donor funded, and the work continues, especially with everything that's going on in our world. And there is still a lot of bullying in Fort Worth ISD. Back then, I used to see youth on youth. Now what I see is adult on youth, which is sickening, but that's the world we live in right now. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you absolutely did. Stacy or Shanae, do you want to talk a little bit about what's happening in Fort Worth ISD, and how we can support the students that are in the community, in the LGBTQ community and the Fort Worth community at large?
I think LGBT youth, just because of the messages that come from around, like in the news and online, are inundated with like hateful language. But like in a lot of ways, like at the schools, I do see a lot of like hope and joy. But I think what our youth need reminding of is that those voices aren't the only voices, because sometimes just because they're the loudest voices doesn't mean they are um, the most common voices. So I think the more we can remind our youth that they're loved and there's people out there that care about them and support them in intentional and explicit ways, because sometimes we think, oh, if we just tell them that we love them, or we just tell them that we care in general, that they'll apply that to all aspects of who they are. But I think they need to explicitly hear, like, we love LGBT youth, we love Black and brown youth, we love you for you.
I would agree. And I will also say to Sharon's point that um, having been on, not in that exact position, but in a very similar position as a queer Black teenager who didn't have that person, and now being on this side of being the affirming adult and having been in a similar situation, um, it takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of strength for like queer adults to show up in those ways all of the time. And so we need allies and people who are vocal, like Stacey said, about their love and their unconditional loving kindness, so that the pressure of being that person isn't consistently on us, because it is sometimes triggering, and it is hard to hear queer youth say things like they don't want to be here because we have been in those shoes. So you know, as parents, as aunts, as uncles, as cousins, you know, as adults, you know, I think it's so important for the youth to hear from you, from people who aren't in the community, that they are loved. And as an adult who's in the community, it is nice to share that lift.
I want to hop into the word that everyone has kind of said, and it's ally. What does it mean to be an ally? What does it mean to show up as an ally for not just LGBTQ plus children, but adults, adults? I'm lobbing this to anyone who wants to take it.
I think some of that is as simple as it doesn't have to be targeted towards kids, I don't think. I think it obviously, the message you're trying to send when you say to a kid who might be LGBT, well, my friend Susan and her partner Lizzie. I mean, it can be as simple as that. And hearing that from an adult goes light years for for children who have questions about their gender identity, their sexual orientation?
I wear this on a daily basis because still work for Fort Worth ISD. And because I never know when a child is watching, listening. I mentioned my wife. Uh, my wife cooked for me, or my wife, abruptly woke me up this morning to go to make coffee for her. So I use it in my vocabulary, and I wear a T-shirt. I'm a veteran, so I have a LGBTQ rainbow proud veteran, and I don't hide because if had I seen an adult in my life, when I was 16, 15, contemplating suicide, that would have given me hope. So that's what I'm trying to do on a daily basis, just trying to make this world a better place for LGBTQ youth. I really don't care about the adults, but the youth, because like I said, about to be 61. I want these kids to flourish, to accomplish their dreams, because I need some. I don't want to hand down a torch. I want to light them so we can create a bigger light of hope for all generations.
And for me, as like a queer staff member at a building, that there are actually other staff members who also identify as non-binary and use alternative names. So I go by Teacher Millette instead of Mr. or Miss, and we have some other people who go by teacher or sorry, there's a background outside, or professor. But I think one thing that's important to me as an ally, I would like for people, when they hear people making a mistake, like whether I'm not around or when I'm there, is just like politely at a different moment reminding them, hey, that's Teacher Millette. They go by Teacher Millette. And I love to be the example for people. I always say mess up my pronouns, but don't mess it up for our kids. But that doesn't mean I actually want people to mess it up. It just means I want people to learn and grow from that, versus because I'm at a place in my life where it doesn't wear on me in the same way that I know it wears on our kids when we struggle with their pronouns. So it's okay to make mistakes, but like practicing, whether it's like when that person's not around and referring to them in your head or out loud with the pronouns they've asked you to use, can really go a long way. I have friends who have, used different pronouns, and sometimes I struggle to get it right if I've known someone for a long time. It's okay to make the mistake. It's just not okay to continue to live in that mistake.
One of the things that I think this training, when I was like putting together all my questions, is kind of just like how do we do this? And I don't want it to ever be like the labor of the marginalized community to have to like solve all of our community's issues. But could any of you give us like any insight on how we can, what are some resources? What can we do to be better allies, to be a safe space for people who are in the LGBT community at large, and also with National Coming Out Day, how are we that safe space when someone is coming out?
But I love what the Junior League did. Was it last year when y'all promoted, actually said Junior League LGBTQ month? I love that. Of course, policy changes. What do your policies look like for the Junior League? Like I said, we changed them for Fort Worth ISD. What you're doing right now is huge. Just exposure of honoring and accepting the LGBT community. There's movies that you guys can watch or refer to and do studies on them, like Prayers for Bobby, The West Wing, 1946, the documentary that just came out. There's a beautiful documentary on our trans youth, which came out about 2 years ago. That is just extraordinary and helps you better understand the trans community. So there's a lot of things that you can do for your, I don't know what you call them, your members on educating. And I'm a trainer on LGBTQ 101. So whatever it is you need from me, I'm willing to give and share. So the ultimate goal is, every time I speak, every time somebody invites me to a church, or not church is chicken, but anytime I get invited to, is I want you to help me save lives. if you're uncomfortable, now you have somebody to contact. And I personally give out my personal cell number. Call me. I get phone calls at 9 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, a parent struggling or a youth that needs help. I simply want to save lives. So now you have a contact. And that's basically all I want to do is save lives. I don't want another child to feel the way that I did.
Broderick, as the native from Fort Worth, you've kind of seen Fort Worth in all of its stages, from like being a child to your formative years and becoming adult in Fort Worth, and then moving away, going to college and things like that. Can you kind of tell us about your experience being here in Fort Worth, living in Fort Worth, and what you want to see and from in the future of Fort Worth, this place that you call home? I think when I asked you to be on this panel, you said that like I was born here, I'm gonna be buried here. Like this is your home. So I would just like love to hear your experience being from here.
Yeah, so I grew up, as I said, on the east side, in the Hanley Meadowbrook neighborhood, and racially diverse, economically diverse, and I grew up in a very, very religious household. And a lot of my exposure to older LGBTQ people were people, namely men in our churches, who and I'm a child of the 90s. So in the 90s, who were dying from complications of AIDS. And that was my first exposure to gay people, was that gay people were meant to die, essentially, and live shorter lives than straight people, that it was something that wasn't to be spoken of. And if it was spoken of, it was only to be spoken of in a derisive way, in a denigrating way, a dehumanizing way. And thankfully, I'm in therapy. It was that's really, in many ways, not a way for any child to grow up to understand their gender identity or their sexual orientation. It's not a helpful way to grow up. And I remember starting to pick up news. It must have been the early 2010s. Was it, Sharon, when there was the raid at the gay bar in Fort Worth? And that was transformative for me because I was in the process of coming out in college and heard about this and thought, oh my goodness, I just had never made the connection of, I'd never gone to a gay bar in my hometown. I'd only gone to bars in other places. And it just got me to thinking about all of the people that I knew, people even, and I don't want to hold the mic for too long, but two people that I went to high school with. And again, I graduated high school in 2008. I am 34 years old, and I know two people, graduates of Eastern Hills High School, who died in 2013 and 2014 from complications of AIDS at the age of 23, 24. This is 18 years after, the really effective treatment came out in 1996 for HIV and AIDS. So that kind of culture of silence and secrecy kills people. And this is beyond bullying. This is existential, unfortunately, for some people my age. And I consider myself a relatively young person. And that kind of environment is not conducive to life or flourishing. And obviously, people like Sharon, like Shanae, like Stacy are working for a more equitable environment so that people don't have to, in many ways, grow up the way that people my age grew up in Fort Worth.
I just want to hop in and uh, say that like so many things have changed and so many things are still the same, as we all know. Something that I think is really important, going back to, well, I guess adding on to Broderick's response and going back to the question, Sierra, that you asked about being an ally. One way that I think is super important for people who are not within the community to be an ally is to listen to diverse voices. Um, like hearing Broderick's story is so like transformative because that's not the Fort Worth that I know because I am a transplant, but it is very similar to my hometown. Um, and I think that sometimes sitting in panels like this, people think that they get a story, right? But that is one story. That is four stories. It is the queer experience is not monolithic. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows that, but I just want to say that out loud and clear. We don't ever want to make the mistake of pigeonholing, especially children, in a narrative that is not theirs. So listening to them, allowing them to kind of author their own narratives, and ensuring that you give them space to kind of grow into who they're becoming in the versions of themselves that will later appear. I've talked to so many parents who I have, yes, it is a constant coming out process. I've talked to so many parents who I've counseled and spoken with about what if my kid changes their pronouns and how do I adjust? And it's like it doesn't matter, right? You can change them 15 times. The point isn't the pronouns. The point is that you are a safe space for them to transform into the versions of themselves that they're going to be. And so I just want to like make it very clear that like there is so much heartache and tragedy and death and destruction and state sanctioned negligence on the part or in the LGBTQ community, especially in queer groups of color, and like it's a lot, but there's also so much joy and so much reverence and so much love. And so ensuring that you are getting a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different information or and a lot of diverse perspectives is just really important because we don't want to write a narrative that's not written for our children.
No, I think that's a really good point, talking about the joy. I think that oftentimes, even just like as as a Black woman, when we talk about the Black experience and the narrative that is put on us, right, is that everything is tragic and everything is harrowing, and yeah, we do have to like reckon with the past, but there is a lot of joy. So I would love to know from each of you or whoever is willing to share, like, what are some moments of joy that you have found being in the LGBTQ community? I don't, this is not my space, it's not my community. I consider myself an ally. But I think one of the moments being an ally that I have felt joy was going to Pride with Broderick's cousin, actually, in DC, and being able to experience that community and the love and the happiness and the joy, and being able to see people be themselves wholly and show up themselves wholly. So just would love to hear some of your experience of like where you experience joy that intersects with like who you are as a person.
Okay, I'll go really quick first. So Stacy and I work at the same high school, and something that I find just like a little bit of joy because I'm a high school English teacher, y'all. So it's not like not outsized joy, okay? But there is on our hallway there, if you pop into any room, almost every room has like a flag or, like just, a queer teacher standing in it doing things. And that is such a cool thing for our students to witness every day, where you can just like pop in any room and see a flag. And then as a teacher working alongside these people who like I oftentimes want to like shake them, but who I know like when it comes down to it are on the right side of history and who are exposing our students to stories that are thoughtful and prolific and future looking, that represent a multitude of identities. The fact that I get to do that every day is so dope. And I know that not a lot of queer teachers have that. So I'm grateful for that.
I'll go next since I'm also being in a school like on the daily. It is nice being able to be at a school where I feel safe and accepted and visible. And my students all the time, like, someone will say, Miss, trying to get my attention, and someone will turn around and be like, she doesn't use she uses they, it's teacher. And I was just like, but you did it wrong, but that was cute. Thank you for trying to correct each other. Yeah, they love correcting each other, and even in messing it up on their own. But longer term, I can think of times where I've had youth whose parents have come in with concerns, like asking about not sure they can accept their child and how much of a struggle it is. And I appreciate they're sharing those with me, not with their child. And then I had one youth who 3 years later, I saw them performing at like a lead role in a musical after they had gone on testosterone. And I was talking to mom after, and the mom told me I burst into tears and said, "That's my son," which I'd never heard her call her child her son. And so I'm crying now just thinking about it.
Let's see, for me, what brings me joy is the fact that we're going to finally have our resource center for LGBTQ saves. It's going to be at the former KKK building, the largest KKK organization that ever existed in the state of Texas, in the nation. And we're hoping to cut that ribbon in 2027. There's a song that I used to love as a kid, "Somewhere Over the Rainbow." There's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby, where the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true, right? But as a teen, I realized there was no such land for me. So my world got dark, led to my suicide attempt. But now I'm trying to create that world right here in the city of Fort Worth, where it's no longer in a lullaby, but it's in Fort Worth, Texas. And it's in 1012 Main Street, where we will have the Fred Rouse Community Art and Community Healing and Art Center. So please go to our website, look at our press, and read our stories. We are making an impact here in the 5th largest city of the 12th largest city in the nation. I always compare it to Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio. They have resource centers, but Fort Worth does not. But we will in 2027, where a child can walk in, read the book that they want to read, eat, take a shower, take a nap, get their GED, get some counseling, everything free for that child right here in the city of Fort Worth.
That was great. And I had one more question, but I don't know if I really want to like end on to go to another point. But as I mentioned at the top of this call, National Coming Out Day is this week. And are there any resources that you think that you could give anyone on this call right now that they could use if wait, actually, no. Broderick, did you want to share your joyful moment? I totally skipped over that. I am so sorry.
No, that's okay. If there's not enough time, that's
No, but
fine.
no, we have time for you,
Okay.
obviously.
Um, where I find joy truly is just being with other LGBT people. I tell my boyfriend this all the time when we see gay people. I just say I love gay people. I just love being around gay people. I love being around queer people. I love being around people who don't know what they are, and they're just trying to figure it out, and they have questions no matter their age. It's amazing. Our resilience is amazing. Our creativity is amazing. Our ingenuity to survive through really difficult circumstances is really, I mean, it's remarkable. What would the world be without us? And I think it would be poorer, it would be less beautiful. And it's just amazing to have gay friends, queer friends, bi friends. I mean, it's really amazing, truly.
I also want to add that if you have the blessing to be around queer youth, they're just the best. They're just the weirdest, funniest, most ridiculous humans on planet Earth. And it is seeing, you know, kind of the work that people like Sharon have put into this community. Like we see it. They are, you know, joyful, they are happy, and it is hard, you know, they are not in any way like they know that life outside of the confines of, you know, their homes, and sometimes even within the confines of their homes, they know that that's hard, but they are also like creating these beautiful moments and these beautiful worlds and these beautiful lives. And so if you get the opportunity to experience like being in the midst of queer children, queer teenagers, especially, that's my wheelhouse, you just soak it in, because it really is like hearing them talk about these worlds that they want to build and the lives that they want to build and just like the futures that they're crafting, and then being around those people and their friends who maybe aren't queer but who have created a queer safe space. It's so cool. It's awesome.
No, that's great. I know that we have spent a lot talking about the youths, but what do we do as adults, for adults who are possibly not out and like want to come out? How do we support those people, especially in junior league? How do we support other leaguers who are in the LGBTQ community? Well, how do you think? I don't think you have like the answers, but would love to hear your opinions on how you think we could support league members.
We work ages 12 to 24, so we do have a group from 18 to 24. Beyond that, we have PFLAG. We have I've spoken to several adults that come out late in life that need support. But yeah, ours is 12 to 24. I said, just what you're doing today is in yeah, I commend you, Sierra Wells, for doing this, because the world is crazy. The world is scary. The world's, but like I said, again, Sierra Wells, you're saving lives today. So you're making an impact on to make this world. I always ask at the end of my email, it always says, what are you doing to make this world a better place? And you're doing it. You're making it a better place.
As the person who lives in this world kind of between two genders, I think there's little things that you can do just to change, to think intentionally about the language you use and whether or not it needs to be gendered. You know, whether you address a letter to ladies and gentlemen, or you just say like, you know, depending on the context, like, hey y'all, sorry, it's Texas, so I can do that now. You know, just how can you make the world more inclusive? I mean, it's as simple as like, you know, a bathroom sign. If you have single stall restrooms, why aren't they gender neutral? Like if it's in a public space, I don't know if junior league offers any public spaces like that, but if anyone here is a business leader, it's a really easy change. And if I see a sign that's gender neutral, like I automatically like that business more, because it means I am guaranteed a safe place to use the restroom. I don't have to think twice about which restroom I use. um and just like being aware of that in language, like not assuming someone has a husband or a, you know, wife based on their gender. I think little things like that go a long way to make other queer people feel safe sharing things with you, because they can tell, you know, and I know it's not easy to do, but they can tell you're not someone who just makes assumptions and thinks the world has to exist in a binary.
I don't want to be that person, but like, you know, vote. Like, you know that there are people's lives on the line. Um, and the angle that I was going to come at tonight is I am bi. I'm a bi woman and I'm married to a man, and there are a lot of assumptions made about like who I am and what that means. And so I guarantee that the junior league has, you know, women in this community who are just like me. And so leaving space for those identities to fully flourish, I know I didn't have the language to talk about that, who I was, until I was older, until I was, almost 30. And so, I don't know, just leaving space for those identities to flourish as we come of age and we continue to come of age. And again, just ensuring that the work that you do in the community, the work that you do in the ballot box, and the work that you do with your children is work that has life saving potential.
It has been amazing the last 2 or 3 years watching corporations and others pull back their support from LGBTQ people. And it's actually been terrifying to see our cultural climate shift in the way it has. It kind of so in some ways quickly shifted toward us kind of in our favor. And we all know that that was not really a quick shift in the 2010s. That was because a lot of LGBT people over 60 years really made that possible. And then it felt like it was quick, but it wasn't actually quick. And the same can kind of be said about this counter time that we're in of there have been a lot of social movements in the last 40 years, especially, that have been pushing against us and have been afraid that LGBT people would, get the right to marry and have workplace discrimination protections and housing protections and employment protections. And with this shift, I've been thinking about, there are lots of loud people. There are lots of loud people in our culture who want LGBT people to lose rights. And what those loud people can't say today that they could 20 years ago is that I don't know an LGBT person. And what they really can't say is I don't know straight people who disagree with me about LGBT people. And I think this time is a time where we need straight people who can talk to other straight people positively about LGBT people and say, what you just said in that meeting or what you just said in passing in the bathroom or that we're not going to do that. And that takes courage. It takes guts. It takes a little bit of insanity, but it goes a really, really long way because, as Shanae has alluded to, in many ways, our lives are on the line every day. Sharon, just said something about this in the chat. And it really will always take a coalition of people of goodwill to bring change in our society for the better. And that coalition doesn't have to be large. We just need 5 or 6 people in every community who care about compassion and care about kindness and care about inclusivity and being expansive with our hearts, and the world will be better because of those people.
I have chills. You four are just amazing and have exceeded my expectations of this conversation tonight. I want to leave 15 minutes up to give anyone that's joined us tonight, anyone in the audience, a chance to ask questions for anyone on our panel, to continue the dialogue.
There Lindsay, you can go first, and I'll go after you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Lindsay Tucker. I am honored to be one of the DEIB co-chairs for the Junior League of Fort Worth this year. Thank you so much, Stacy, Broderick, Sharon, Shanae. It has been wonderful to listen to you. I have a similar experience to you, Shanae. I am a bisexual woman who is married to a man. I came out to myself at 26 years old, about 3 months before my wedding. And God bless my husband, the man is wonderful. He said, do we need to put the brakes on? Do we need to pause? Do you need to explore that part of yourself? Because I love you no matter what. um, I'm also a white woman. And I think intersectionality is something that is so critical to any equity space. I know because I am white, because I have the privilege of being invisible in my sexuality if I so choose, that there is a higher requirement for me to be an advocate, to be an ally. And there is still some of the trauma, like you said, Shanae, about hearing those experiences. But I just wanted to let our league members know, for the Junior League of Fort Worth, there are queer women in our league. We're here. If you want to get connected to the network, you let me know. We've got a group chat and we would love to expand that. For everybody, there is an AJLI ally group on Facebook where members of the LGBTQ community and allies are welcome to join the conversation. And there is also a new Slack channel exclusively for LGBTQ people who are in the league. So if you want to get connected to either of those spaces, please let me know. But to our panelists, I guess, can you speak a little bit to intersectionality and how, even as members of the LGBTQ community, we can utilize the privileges that we do have to better advocate, not just for LGBTQ individuals in their LGBTQ identities, but as whole people in all of their identities?
So I am I'm a teacher, so I'm always like, okay, I don't, does everybody understand what intersectionality is? So that's something that I like, oh no, are we using terminology that maybe some people, okay. Does anybody else want to use, Project, can you explain what intersection, because I'm like, so intersectionality is and tell me, okay, is the way that the different facets of our identity come together to kind of dictate the ways in which society oppresses us, or the rules kind of change because of the not stacking, but like the different co-marginalized identities. So as a Black woman, and it was coined by oh my God, Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw.
Kimberly Crenshaw.
Okay, yes, okay. Sorry, I did not expect to be teaching at 7:49. But it was coined by Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw as a legal means to quantify the ways in which Black women specifically were marginalized, because like being Black is like a subset of societal norms, and being a woman is a specific subset of societal norms. And so there is a very specific way that Black women are treated and pigeonholed in workplaces and business spaces. And so that's kind of the way that intersectionality works. How's the culmination of your identities impacting the way that society treats you? And so as a queer Black woman who is also married to a man who is white, who has a master's degree, and who is a teacher, but who also lives in Texas, there are all of these different ways that my identity shows up, and the way that people treat me. But something that I will say is I always think about who is left out of conversations. And that's something that I've worked really, really hard to do, and I fail at sometimes. But as a queer Black woman in Texas, I'm always like, yeah, these are the ways that I function, and I am marginalized, but I also, again, have a master's degree. I speak English. So all of these things impact how I come at the world. So just realizing who's left in or who's left out of the conversation is really important.
I'm Lindsay and Shanae. I like that y'all talked about intersectionality because that's exactly where my comment was going towards. I'm sorry. I'm Dr. TJ Jackson Shaw. I am the other co-chair of the DNIB committee for Junior League of Fort Worth. When you were talking about allyship, and I used to work in the school systems. I'm a counselor. I used to be not in Fort Worth ISD, but another school district, other school districts. But when we talk about allyship and advocacy and all those things, I think of it from my perspective. I want someone, I try to advocate for others in the same way that I want someone to advocate for women if someone is saying things that are derogatory towards women. I advocate for others the same way I want someone to advocate for Black people if someone is saying something derogatory for Black people. I advocate for others in the same way that I want somebody to advocate for neurodivergent people if they're saying something like I advocate for others the way that I want someone to advocate for me. So when we talk about how can we as league members, no matter which league you're in, how can we be better allies? How would you want someone to be a better ally for you? Because we all have privilege and we all have what's the word? The opposite of privilege. Somebody give it to me. But but we all have both, right? And so we need to lean into our power where we can and lean into it in a way that we want someone to lean into it in those for us in the areas that we don't have that power. That's it.
Thank you, TJ. Is there anyone else who wanted to have a question, wanted to share? We've got about 8 minutes here. Okay. Our panelists, y'all have any closing final thoughts for us?
Okay.
Thank you for having. Oh,
Go ahead. Who is it?
so thank you for having me. This is such a beautiful reminder of the different ways that community can show up. And so I really appreciate it. And thank you, Sierra, for putting this on every calendar that I have. It has been really beautiful to be in conversation with people that I love and people that I admire. Sharon, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for creating this space.
And I just wanted to put in a plug for our website and promote our website. We have an event this Saturday, our Youth Pride event. We have breakfast with Santa in December, and we have a fundraiser called Iconic. It'll be Las Vegas Drag Entertainment. What our fundraiser coming up? Go to our website. Everything is there. And again, I thank you. I thank you for tonight. This is huge. This to me is how you change the world. So I commend you and the power that you have, Sierra. So yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Roderick, Stacy, any parting words?
I am just filled with gratitude for all of you, for your attentiveness, for your great questions. This has just been an honor to be with you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just echo what everyone says. Thank you for being here, and thank you for caring enough to spend your evening with us.
All right, guys, thank you so much. If you haven't registered, I think everyone registered. Make sure that you're checking it's Member Essentials to get your training credit. They're